Welcome. This is a foot rolling practice. You will need a ball of some sort to use as your prop. I don't love golf balls for this practice. They're, for most people, simply too hard and too small. They're too shocking in some ways for the nervous system. A softer, small ball would be interesting, even a ball with little spikes on it. Lacrosse balls are great. Tennis balls are great. Tennis balls that have been used a bunch are awesome because they've got a little bit of give in them that makes this practice more comfortable or more tolerable, particularly if you have feet that are very sensitive. So we're going to start by setting up our station. If you have hardwood floors, tile, slippery surfaces that you're working on, it's really nice to grab a blanket or a towel and make a fold so that you have something to put the ball on so that you have more control over it while you're trying to maneuver the ball around. And so go ahead and place the ball on your surface. We're going to start with your right foot. If you want to do a pre-test, post-test to kind of see the changes, you could have both feet standing on the ground, legs straight, and then fold forward. See how far you can fold forward. See where you feel tightness in your forward bend. See what that tightness feels like, whether it's almost like a deep ache or more like a buzzy feeling. And then once you've done that, come up, place the ball underneath your right foot. And you're going to find the spot on your right foot that is in between the big toe knuckle and the second toe knuckle. Some people refer to this as the first ray, particularly in the Pilates tradition. And what you want to do is place the ball underneath that first ray in between the first and second toe knuckles. Place the heel down, so you're also getting calf stretch. And then try to curl the toes gently, but somewhat actively over the ball. And what you might notice as you do that is the knuckles kind of spreading and lifting as they form over the shape of the ball that you're using. This is why a tennis ball is really great, because if it's kind of squishy, it won't push up on those knuckles quite as strongly as maybe a lacrosse ball will. And you might be able to do a little bit more pressure because you have that give, right? It kind of conforms a little bit to the shape of your foot. If it's possible, straighten your right knee. Have your left foot hip distance apart from your right foot with its knee straight. And then we're going to hang out here for about another 30 seconds, breathing. All right. If this is particularly sensational, you may need to back off a little bit by bending your right knee slightly, or maybe even sliding an additional towel or rolled up washcloth underneath your right heel so that there's not quite as much of a ankle bend. And so then we're going to take the ball from that space between the first and second knuckle now over to the space between the fourth and fifth knuckle, which is smaller, right? So you're probably going to be somewhere on the right half of your right forefoot. Again, the toes are curling forward over the ball. The heel is down. The knee is straight as much as it can be. And you're breathing. And you're noticing, right? What does this feel like in comparison to when I was underneath the first ray? Is it the same amount of flexibility? Is it less flexible? Is it more flexible? Is it more tender? Is it less tender? Can I breathe here? Am I taking care to create almost the right amount of sensation? Not too much, not too little. Great. And then lift your foot up off the ball a little bit and place the ball in such a way that it's right in front of your heel bone, right? So it's at the back of the arch, the front of the heel bone. The ball of the foot now is on the ground, so you may need to step your left foot forward so that you're still in a Tadasana-like shape, or a hip distance apart, symmetrical footed shape. And then see if you can straighten your right knee, which is going to put pressure down on the ball right at that kind of front attachment site on your heel bone, your calcaneus. And as you stand here, your right hip is likely going to be hiked up a little bit. And so the more that you can think about leveling your right hip down to your left hip, the better. If you're still like, hey, this is comfy, I'm not feeling a ton, or I'd like a little bit more, you can microscopically wiggle your foot right to left, almost as if you were kind of digging the ball into that space in front of your heel bone. And it's tiny. It's very, like, maybe a millimeter or two to the right and maybe a millimeter or two to the left. And then stop that if you're doing it. Take a step back with your left foot and start to roll your right foot up and down the ball. And you want to make sure that you get not only the center line of the whole sole of the foot, you want to play around with trying to get the inner arch and the outer arch of your feet as well. If you find particular areas that are very tender, you can elect to roll through them, or maybe even roll to that spot and make little circles. You can also roll to that spot, step down, and twist your foot on the ball to see if you can get some fascial torsion. So we'll do this for another minute or so, trying to get as much of the topography of the foot covered as possible without losing the ball. And of course, if the ball kind of squirts out from underneath your foot, go get it, start again, right? No worries. This is also a little bit of coordination. Like, how do you work with a ball underneath your foot? Can you control it? What's the edge that you can play with in terms of pressure and placement before you lose that ball? It's a really interesting exercise. Great. And then take the foot off the ball, stand on a firm surface. If you're on carpet, don't worry, that's also fine. But make sure that your feet are both on a identical floor, right? So that you don't have one foot on a blanket and one foot on a hardwood floor. And then bend forward and check it out. Does your right side feel different? Do you feel like you're twisting because of a difference of length? And then we'll go to the other side. So now the ball goes underneath the left first ray, so between the left first and second toe knuckles. Left heel is on the ground. Toes are very gently but actively curling over the ball. We're gonna kind of see what this foot feels like. Each position we're holding for somewhere between 30 to 90 seconds. Right? Feel free to play around with time here if you want to explore something in a slightly different way. Breathing as best you can while doing this exercise and kind of getting to know your feet. Go ahead, roll the ball over to the fourth ray, space between the fourth and fifth knuckle. Again, the heel is down, the left knee is straight, the toes are actively but gently curling over the ball to help widen and spread the transverse arch, or the arch that goes from left to right. And kind of knowing that as you do this, we tend to put our feet in very similar shoes and conditions every single day. And so we want to give the feet some love and some release, because the feet can be incredibly adaptable. We want to give them that flexibility. And then roll the ball up until the front of the heel, where the end of the arch, or the back of the arch is, and the front of the heel bone is. Place the ball there, put the ball of the foot down on the floor. Make sure the feet are aligned. See if you can straighten the left knee and start to try to level the hips out as best you can. Take a few breaths here. And then optionally, you could optionally here, you could make very small wiggles with your left heel on the ball, almost imperceptible to someone looking at you, just kind of tease out some of the potential restrictions that are at the front of that heel bone. And then take a step back with your right foot. Start to roll your left foot up and down the ball, making sure to get the inner arch, the outer arch, and the center line of your sole. And again, if you find places that need a little bit of extra attention, go ahead and pause there. You can either stamp the foot onto that spot for just a very gentle trigger point release, right? Hold it for 30 to 60 seconds. You can put pressure there and twist the foot for more of a fascial torsion release. You can also just roll right through it, almost like you are rolling a pie dough out and you are kind of smushing butter cubes into the dough, which I'm not a baker, but you get the gist. We'll do this for about another 30 seconds or so. And then go ahead, step the foot onto the floor, align your feet, check your work, go ahead, forward bend, see how you feel. And then come on up to stand.